A lot of the fundamental work that went on to humankind understanding the basic building blocks of nature at the atomic level, a lot of that work was done by Gerhard Herzberg. Not as well known as an Einstein, not as well known as a Newton, but who had a formidable influence on our understanding of how the world works. A lot of this is contained within this book that my father wrote in the very early 2000s. My impression from reading my father's biography of Herzberg and from what I remember of him was that he didn't choose to come to the University of Saskatchewan because he believed that of all the places he could go to on the face of the earth, this would be the one that would give him the kind of scientific environment that would allow him to reach his scientific ambitions. But he made it that way. And that's what the history of this university is, people who are creating opportunities when they see them and allowing this university to be a university, as we like to put it, that the world needs. It's a remarkable story. It's one for the history books, and it fits well with what this university is all about. Under the leadership of the first president, the president of the time, Walter Murray, through a Carnegie Fellowship, was able to bring Herzberg and his wife Louise over here from Darmstadt, Germany, starting in 1935 as refugees from Nazi Germany. Herzberg's wife Louise was Jewish, an eminent scientist in her own right, by the way. And that began a wonderful 10-year relationship between Herzberg as a member of the physics department and the University of Saskatchewan, during which he did all of the fundamental work that led to his Nobel Prize in 1971 in chemistry. You can draw a direct line between Herzberg being here and the wonderful work that he did in spectroscopy, all of which was groundbreaking theoretical and fundamental research at the time. You can draw a direct line between it and the fact that we have the Canadian Light Source synchrotron here. His spectrograph of 1941, which we have displayed in the physics building, is a far cry from that now multi-billion-dollar facility, but an indication of how influential Herzberg's work was. This university is all about collaboration, about courageous curiosity. Herzberg was always the first to acknowledge the work that others did around him and with him and in support of him that led to his own scientific accomplishments. My father worked at the National Research Council in Ottawa for many years before he moved in 1963 after a year at MIT in Boston to become a physics prof at the University of Toronto. And he went to the National Research Council in the very late 40s because Herzberg was there. And he had heard Herzberg speak at a conference and was extremely attracted to the promises of Herzberg as a scientist, but also the field of spectroscopy that he was involved in. I was born in Ottawa in 1956, and my father would often have Herzberg over to our house in Alta Vista. And I have very early memories, not only of Herzberg, but also of their discussions, which often involved the University of Saskatchewan because, Herzberg felt indebted to the University of Saskatchewan, not just for his scientific career, but for his very livelihood and life. And at the time, being very young, I thought that was the only university that existed in the world. So it was a nice sort of closing of the circle for me to be able to get a position as a faculty member at the University of Saskatchewan later in life. I remember Herzberg very distinctly. He sang a lot, and my father used to love hearing him sing. He comported himself as a very quiet and mild-mannered gentleman with an extremely hearty, I'd say, booming laugh. He was somewhat diminutive in stature, very affable, very humble, very self-effacing, but at the same time, obviously, the possessor of a keen intellect.